is definitely the pain that I was witnessing, that I was like, man, like I don't want to be through this. Like, it's familial stuff, it's generational stuff, just that's been in my family, from depression to anxiety to drug abuse. To be honest, like, I was in that scene for quite a bit of my life. I was 17, 18 years old. My brother was addicted to opioids, and he was taking money from myself. It was the pain of that I was like, I just cannot do this. And then I had an epiphany. I know I don't want to be like what I've been through. I know I don't want my kids to experience what I've been through. So in order to create a new generation of Schneiders, it just comes from actions.
Thanks, Austin, for coming on. You run a multi-seven-figure marketing agency with over 20 employees, and you've helped over hundreds of clients build their personal brand, get deals from Instagram. You're also a big ultrarunner, running 100 miles, the Grand Canyon. You're huge into faith. But I've heard you struggled a little earlier before you were successful in real estate. So I was just curious, how do you think that affected you and shaped who you are today?
Thanks for having me on, Andrew. Appreciate being on here. Pumped to chat. Pumped to get into some good stuff. So, yeah, man. Thanks for the introduction again and having me on. So, I think when you say struggle early on, like, it's familial stuff, it's generational stuff, just that's been in my family, from scarcity to depression to anxiety to drug abuse. And to be honest, like, I was in that scene for quite a bit of my life early on through my high school days. And then I had an epiphany and was around the right people. I started surrounding myself around good people and realized that I can become this, or I can use this to my advantage to allow it to springboard up. So I think when people face like adversity in their life, and myself included, it's like you have the choice to either like get sucked into it and let it control you, or you can use it as motivation of what you don't want in your life. So it's really a great reminder to reflect and be like, okay, I know I don't want to be like what I've been through. I know I don't want my kids to experience what I've been through. So in order to create a new generation of Schneiders and to break generational curses, really, in my opinion, it just comes from action. So really, it's a motivation now as I reflect back on it, to springboard me forward and keep me excited every day. Like what you said, like running the business and doing the ultra marathons, it's like that's it's a sub-product of what I'm looking to achieve in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I've had a couple dark times in my life, like through college, putting myself in that bad scene, drinking, partying, stuff like that. So I've been through, I can't say a similar experience, but I've had those like dark times. And I think it was Tony Robbins that said it's like you're usually motivated more off of pain than off of pleasure. Was there kind of like this culmination of like this point that was just like, you've had enough? Was that the epiphany, or?
Yeah, I think it was, my brother was addicted to opioids, and he was taking money from myself. I was 17, 18 years old. 18 years old, went to get my credit card, found out my mom got a credit card for me already, and she was using it for her like to live, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Got evicted from an apartment as a kid. So I wasn't necessarily in it, but I was witnessing it. So it was the pain of that I was like, man, like, I just cannot do this. So it really started with like, I'm going to join the military, or I just wanted stability. Like I wanted to join the military, be a police officer. Like, that's what I was yearning for. And I had mentors, luckily. But yeah, and then just to answer your question, it was definitely the pain that I was witnessing that I was like, man, like, I don't want to be through this. I'm on the outside, I'm not in it. And it was just a culmination of all that stuff. I was like, man, this is rough.
Yeah, that makes sense. So is that where kind of like your love and your passion for the concept of Misogi came? Like, it all kind of come together, or was first, like, what is that concept, and was that part of how you kind of started the ultra running, or?
Yeah, I would say it's has a factor. So a Misogi is basically doing something once a year that you feel like you have a 50-50 chance of completing. It could be physical, it could be mental, it could be whatever it could be. So like last year, for instance, it was to run the Grand Canyon rim to rim to rim. This year, it's going to run a 100-mile race in Zion. So doing something that you feel right now, like when you talk about it or when you say about it, like you kind of like hesitate to tell anybody, or you hesitate to be like, I don't know if I'm actually going to do this. But that's what you want to say yourself on. So I learned about that concept from this book called The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter, which I read right when COVID hit. And basically just talks about how we're so wired for comfort these days, how everything around us is meant to make us comfortable, and how that's becoming a crisis in many ways, and leading to anxiety, leading to depression, leading to all of these things, right? Like we wake up, we check our phone, we're on Instagram all day, we go home from work and we watch TV, and then we're in our bed and we're scrolling the phone. It's like a cycle. It's like we're so drawn to technology and whatnot, but it's more of a primal approach that he takes in the book. But I was dealing with like personal anxiety from panic attacks. COVID was going on. I was like, oh my God, is the world about to end? Like, are all the clients about to cancel? I was not very comfortable. So I was like, so I got into running, and then I read the book, and then I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to give this a shot and see what can happen. So it was the Grand Canyon, middle of nowhere, like unsupported, just me and a friend. Like the North Trail was closed. It's like they didn't have anybody really down there. And it was just like, cool, let's just run this 50-mile race, or a 50-mile run. It wasn't even a race, it was a hike, and see what could happen. And I would say that the effects of that are increasing confidence, like the ability to like do something crazy and have a story that you're going to be able to tell your kids and your kids' kids, because that's going to build confidence, which is going to leak into really all areas of your life. So if you guys are listening, book of Misogi, figure it out. Jesse Itzler talks about it a lot, so he's definitely more of a mainstream person that really is an endorser of doing the Misogi and the concept of that. But yeah, it's a great tool that will do more for your mental health than seemingly on the outside when you talk about it prior to doing it. So
Nice. Yeah, I've heard.
You got one?
No,
Not yet.
I wish.
Okay.
I'm still kind of like. After you said that, it made me think. Okay, I need something.
Yeah.
Because I don't have anything right now.
Yeah.
I just push myself, and it's just only through work, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So I feel like I need something like physical. Like I go to the gym, all that stuff, but nothing that's like 50-50 of completion.
Yeah.
Type.
Yeah. It could be a
So-
marathon. It could be anything, Marathon.
Yeah, and
crazy hike. I mean, you're in the flatland, so you can swim to Mexico.
We don't really have mountains in Florida.
Yeah. You do not.
It's funny because I had Ken Pozak, he runs a big team in Orlando, on, and he actually talked about he was getting to this point health-wise, like where it got really bad, and he found peace actually in running because it was the time for him to actually have that conversation with himself, all
Yep.
this conversation with everything that was going on. He was like literally quiet with himself running, where he would talk through all of these questions in business and life. Did you find that through running, or?
110%. Like, I ran this morning 10 miles, took an hour and a half. Felt like it was 30 minutes because I was just thinking, processing things. Like, I'm able to be present, and it's really meditation. If you can get into it, throw good podcasts in, throw some just music on in the background, and just have some time for yourself where you're not reacting, but you're present and you're thinking and you're processing and you have momentum and you're outside. Like, I hate treadmills. I'll never run on a treadmill, but you're outside in nature. Like, that does something to you. Like, that elevates your mood, elevates your, like, creates dopamine. And then, creates creativity, and you can process things and be present. At least that's how I love to leverage running, and why I don't really think I'm going to stop.
Nice. Like, it's funny because when I was overweight and I got in shape, one of the things was I would go to the gym probably twice a day, a few days out of the week. And one of my things was like hit cardio on the treadmill.
Yeah.
And I told myself I'm never going back on a treadmill because it sucks and it's boring.
Sure. And just being outside in nature, like rain or shine, snow, like it does something for you. It's good for you in so many ways.
So when you have these like thoughts coming to you, you're listening to this podcast, do you ever like take notes anywhere? Like, or is it just kind of continuously run, think through, stay present, or do you stop and take note? Like, not stop, but do you take notes, I guess?
I have. I don't regularly do it, but it's kind of like it's almost like a relief. Like, have you ever heard of the stress cycle?
No, I haven't. What is it?
So, like, if you feel stressed about something, the only way to actually get out of the cycle of stress is to relieve the stress somehow. A healthy way to do that is exercise, running, getting outside, going for a walk, whatever it is. So that's where I can kind of release any stress. But I totally have, like, stopped and taken notes. And if I'm in the middle of something, or if something is stressful at the company or something along those lines, then it's not abnormal to pause and give myself a little voice note, or text Mark a voice note on the run as I'm going through it. But that's where the best ideas come, 110%.
Yeah, because the reason I asked that was because there's this idea of when you're going to sleep and you have all these thoughts running your mind, it's your brain trying to remember something.
Yeah.
And that's why it just stays in your mind. Your brain's trying to, like, remember it. And what I've heard, what I've been trying to start, and I've been doing in small doses, is I would either text myself or I'd write in a journal and just capture the thought.
Yeah.
Because if not, I'll just sit there thinking about it for the next, like, hour. So
Sure. It's the battlefield of one of our team members does that. She'll lay in bed and then she'll think of everything and then write it down, and then she can sleep better.
So I was curious because you said something. The reason you started running was back in like 2020. You're having anxiety. You're afraid or unsure if all the clients were going to quit. What was going on? I guess first, to kind of set the scene, how many employees did you have at that time?
I think it was like 2 or 3 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you already had people you were paying for. You had people that you were essentially their livelihood. So I'm sure that was kind of weighing on you a little bit.
For sure. Pride, ego. Because, I mean, if I think back to COVID, it was like you didn't know what was about to happen. And, like, you didn't know if the world was going to end. Everything was shutting down. It's like, what the heck? We're in a service-based business where we need to go video for people and, like, get people on social media and, like, see them for content and stuff like that at that time. And it was just like, it was freaking out. So, and the gyms were closed. So I was like, I have nothing to do but to go run. So I'm going to go run. And I did 5 miles a day for, I think, 60 days. And then I was like, I'm going to keep running. And then just kept it up, and then met a friend who was an ultrarunner. And then he was like, yeah, I'm doing a 100-mile race. And I was like, what? Like, how is that even possible? And then as I was around him and just kind of understood that culture more of trail running and just ultra running and what you can do, that's when I was like, cool, I'm gonna follow in the footsteps and give it a shot. And now it's kind of my hobby.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what helped you, it seemed like, through all this was just action in the way of, let me get out of my head and let me just focus on what I can do right now? Or was it something else?
100%. I think the the reason people feel anxious and the reason I felt anxious about something is because I was not taking action on what I knew I needed to take action on. Any anxiety that I feel, any anxiety that I feel brewing up in my system, it's just a lack of action towards what I'm looking to get done, what I'm feeling anxious about. So if I'm feeling anxious about my business, okay, cool. I need to take action in a particular area of what I'm feeling anxious about versus sit there and ruminate on it, right? Anxiety is fear of the future. Depression is lack of motivation, right? So it's like you can brew those up through action. So that's what I realized when I was like, man, if I just start taking massive action, running for me from that perspective was able to give me momentum, allow me to process things and do wise action versus like react or just ruminate on and feel bad for myself. Because shame and guilt is on the frequency scale is the lowest that you can go, and it's easy to feel shame and guilt. Like I feel shame and guilt, but that's the lowest frequency that you can be at as a human. So if you can get out of that shame and guilt, start taking action, feel better about yourself through confidence or through action, through building confidence through action, then that's going to compound into bigger, better things for your life, not just in your business, but in your mental health, in your personal life. And that's my story, is how I've experienced that.
So how do you transfer that from you to your team? Because I'm sure that's probably a big part of, like, I want to develop the team to kind of, obviously they're not all going to run 100-mile races, but you want to transfer the personal development, the growth, the mindset, all of that. How do you kind of go about that?
It's a really good question, and can be very challenging at times, because as a high D on the disc, as a achiever, you expect everybody to operate like you and see things the way that you do. But I think as a leader, the best thing that we can do is understand human nature. So rather than, like, it was explained to me really well, like, I have a set of glasses, you have a set of glasses, we're seeing things differently. Like, I don't see what you see. So it's like, I don't need you to see, or I don't need you to be me necessarily, but how do I create proper expectations and communicate articulately and over-communicate and set really good expectations so that we can be on the same page. So one, it's removing expectations of anybody being like me. Like, I don't say, we got to go run 100 miles this week, da-da-da-da-da. But if my standard as a leader is this, and this is what we expect, and then it's just laying out the clear expectations and expecting them to meet or exceed those expectations. And then it's also leading by example. It's showing up every day. It's doing the running. It's being someone worth following. But really, it's a balance of that, but also empathy and understanding human nature and realizing that nobody's going to be like you and nobody sees what you see. Like, that's the reality of it. It's like, as a leader, it's about empathy. It's stooping down to somebody's level to understand them and see what they're going through, setting really good expectations with them, being a good person, and helping them excel where you want them to excel. Versus, again, being a CEO or this runner or this personal growth person. And also exposure. Like, exposure has been really good for us, meaning getting leadership development opportunities within BrainTeach, exposing people to what I'm talking about with Mark and Peter, so that they can fully understand. Because if I'm just like, oh, you're just an employee who's just going to do this, like, they're going to feel like an employee who just does that, right? But if I can bring them into the conversations, if I can allow them to understand what I'm processing, what we're doing from a big picture perspective, then they feel like they're a part of a team and we're all in the same boat and we're heading in the same direction. So many people just try to, like, either have improper expectations or they don't have empathy and they expect somebody to do something that just doesn't make sense. But it's always on the leader's responsibility, in my opinion, from my experience.
Nice. So it's kind of, you set this pace, make sure you lead from example, but while also kind of playing on both sides. Like, yeah, I set this high pace, this is where I'm at, but I'm also here to meet you where you're at.
Totally.
Right?
If you can set really good expectations, because anybody, like, wants to do good at what they're doing. Like, if I'm going to work for Brantegic, like I'm going to get hired and I want to know that I'm doing a really good job. But it's like if you're not defining what a really good job is, then you can't expect them to do a good job. So it's being really clear and communicating. Something that we've worked on at Brantegic and we still work on is like, what does it mean to meet or exceed expectations and crush it in this role? What does it mean to not do that? What are the consequences of doing that? And the people that have met or exceed expectations at Brantegic have grown with Brantegic. So it's a fun thing. But I think understanding human nature as a leader, like if you are listening to this and you're starting to bring on team members, it's just understanding human nature, how people work. They want control, right? They want to know what's going on. They think about themselves, like naturally. Like I do the same thing. You do the same thing. It's human nature.
And now that you're at 20 plus employees, how do you set those expectations? How do you keep them accountable? How do you kind of, like you said, do that for everyone on the team? What have you kind of learned from when you started with 2 employees to where you're at now, 20?
Yeah, so I'm a young business owner, right? Like 4 years in the business, grew really quickly, hired a bunch of people really quickly, totally did it the wrong way. Like we were kind of on the spectrum of no expectations and, oh yeah, just do this, do that, and let's just get the job done, which is like learn from my mistakes, do not do that. So the best way to make sure people are operating in clear expectations is, one, as boring as it sounds, a really good job description and having clear expectations within that job description. So it's not like, oh, you're going to edit these videos and you're going to go shoot and you're going to do this. It's like, okay, there's a role and a responsibility and there's smart expectations per thing that everybody is doing. Okay. And then so let's just say my role is a videographer. Okay. You need to video shoots, show up 30 minutes early, get set up, blah, 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 blah. And then your smart expectation is video at least 5 shoots a week, drop the footage in the folder within 1 hour of shooting, blah, 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 like super, super granular. Because if you are frustrated with somebody because they're not doing what you wanted them to do, and maybe they put the footage in 2 days later, it's actually on you because you didn't set the proper expectation. So it's getting really granular and specific on the expectations. And then somebody can follow that and feel like they're doing a good job because they have clear things that they want to follow. So if you put yourself in the team member's shoes or the employee's shoes, like they're going to want to know that they're doing a good job, hopefully. And if they feel lost, if they feel stuck, if they feel ambiguous about their role, they're not going to be able to succeed because they're not set up for success. So it's setting really clear expectations, following it, like reviewing it with them once a week on a one-on-one perhaps, whatever it could be, and just getting really granular and clear. Like clarity is power with team members, with everything that you're doing. Otherwise, you're just going to be frustrated, and you're going to have no mechanism of tracking anything. So that's what we've learned is coming in from being like overly generous and I don't know what you want to do, like just do this, to now like we're trying to get a little bit more crystal clear without being micromanagey. And it's been a tough transition because we're going from very loose to a little bit more tighter ship.
And how is that going to like a tighter ship? And is there anything that you do that you didn't touch on to set them up for success? Keep them accountable weekly, monthly, quarterly?
Yeah.
How's that transition been, I guess?
Yeah, so like from a keeping accountable perspective, it's like reviewing in a one-on-one with their manager. Like that's the easy way to review expectations. End of week forms are another thing that we've implemented to keep people accountable, just to stay on track. So yeah, I think those mechanisms of actually holding people accountable are good and strong, for sure, and important.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And so you did really well in real estate. I think your first year, you maybe did like 10, 12 million. I think it was 12, and 10 was from Instagram.
For sure.
And then you work with a lot of people in real estate. And now your experience running Brantegic, do you think people, especially in service-based industry sales, do they hire too quick or too soon?
I think it's the opposite.
Or too slow or too soon?
Too slow, for sure. 110%. Yeah. Like, I think, again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier on the notion of control. It's like we want to control everything. We want to control every single aspect of our business, especially because we can do it the best. I can do Braintegic the best. I can record the best. I can do everything the best at Braintegic. But then you just become on a hamster wheel and you become stuck and you go insane. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over. It's like you're going to be stuck. So I think if you can look at your business like a business and figure out where you want to go, get clear, again, going back to the clarity, getting clear on your vision and understanding where you want to be and who you need in place to help get you to where you want to go, that's when you're going to be set up for a win. And I think if you can do that from the jump, like if I were to start another business right now, first thing I'll do is figure out who do I need to hire to get me there so I can be operating my highest and best. That's the best investment into your business that you'll ever make is people and buying back time through other people. In buying back time, getting stuff done that you shouldn't be doing because it's not your highest and best.
So I think a lot of it stems from like us being salespeople. We go, we make the money, and then we want to keep all the money.
Yeah. And
there's this like fear of like, what if I hire someone for $4,000 a month and they don't work out? And we'd rather have this high income. Like we want to be taking home this high income, yet not hire. What helped you kind of transition to being, okay, it's not just me. Let me hire 2 people. Okay, let me go to 4. Let me go to 12. Because I'm sure there's different hurdles that you went through going from 2 to like 12 to now 20. What do you think happened and what helped you overcome that as a leader?
Yeah, I think it's realizing, okay, you have like only so many hours in your day and so many hours in your week. And if you're using, let's just say, 10 hours towards an activity that could be delegated, like you're shooting yourself in the foot to getting back 10 hours to then make up money that you could get another couple deals if you're in real estate that could pay for that person and more. So it's like cool, if you're going to hire somebody for $4,000 a month, like how can you buy back enough time to generate $12,000 based off of you hiring and delegating? And also peace of mind. It's like who wants to be doing everything all the time and feeling busy, like you're juggling everything. Like that's not running a business. That's like you're a worker. Like you're just going to be stuck.
Yeah.
So I think it's just being super, super diligent with it and just realizing it's an investment into your business. Like bet on yourself. If you believe that you can grow, if you believe in the vision of what you have for your business, then it should be a no-brainer. Like people always talk about investing into their business. Like this is how you invest in your business is by hiring people. But you have to have a clear vision and you have to have clear expectations of what you want them to do in order to succeed in that role specifically. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Very risky, very challenging. You're dealing with livelihood. Maybe start with a 1099 if you're nervous, and then just kind of go from there.
Nice. Yeah. What at least helped me get a different perspective on it was hearing it from Ryan Serhant. And obviously this is a different degree to it, but he was like, I could drive myself around New York City, or I could pay someone, and yes, it might cost me, let's just say, $4,000 a month.
Right.
But instead of thinking of that loss, it's just like, how much do I actually have to make in order to be worth it? Well, $4,000 a month, 1 or 2 deals in New York City. So do I think I can get an extra 1 or 2 deals by paying for a driver? Yeah.
Exactly. And I think the people that it's a miss because people just don't know how to hire and they don't know how to set the proper expectations, which we talked about, in order to set the other person up for a win and actually do their job well.
So how do you think of now, like, and throughout, like, okay, who's my next hire? How do you think through that who part of who do I need to hire next, and when do I know that I'm ready to hire that who?
Yeah. So at Braintegic, specifically from like a marketing agency, like we're in a pod structure, so we're pretty clear on the role specifically and the roles that we need to fulfill and where we're going, etc. I would say from a timing perspective, we measure everybody off of capacity. So if we see somebody's at 80% capacity, 90% capacity, cool. They're probably one, feeling overwhelmed, and we already know that we need to hire somebody. But two, the numbers as we're measuring capacity based off of billable hours are telling us, okay, now it's time to freaking go hire somebody, because otherwise that person's going to burn out and leave and we're going to be screwed. So we need to get them help ASAP. So I think it's creating an org structure first in the vision, and then filling in specific pieces that you can start to delegate. So again, we're in the pod structure. We know we have a creative strategist, client success manager, account manager, graphic designer, and a videographer, and 2 video editors. Cool. So it's a little bit more tricky as we scale, and it's like we're not going to add 30 grand of payroll like up from the jump, but it's like we're going to slowly start to do that. And then as far as like the who, it's really important to find good people. Just like from an interview perspective, one of the most important things that we look at or try to do is get people bought into the company before we actually hire them. So somebody who's really excited about the vision, really excited about where we're going, really excited about the culture that we've created, then to us, that's a really good candidate versus somebody just looking for another job.
So before I go into that, how do you measure capacity?
Yeah. So from a service-based business, there's basically 160 hours as a team member, let's say. So let's just say you're a videographer at Braintegic. You have 160 hours that you're working at Braintegic every single month. Okay? Mm-hmm. So those can be billable hours. Let's just say we're going to cut 10 a week. So we're going to do 120 billable hours for you, Andrew, every single month. Okay? And because we're going to do 10 hours a week for lunch, to take a pee, to answer emails, to do Slack, to do internal meetings. Cool. So you have 30 hours a week that I can stack you with billable hours. So if we get a client and we know that it's going to take 5 hours a week or 5 hours a month, then we do 120 divided by 5, and that's your full capacity. That's how much client load that you can actually take. So we'll measure it based off of the estimated time that it takes to fulfill a client, essentially. And then we'll have a formula that just punches in how many hours estimated that they're working, like minus their billable hours, and that's how many hours that they have left, or how many clients that they can handle. And then that's when we can measure it, because they'll feel it. And then if they're like, and then that's the best indicator, especially in a service-based business, because if they're like, I'm so overwhelmed, and then you look at their capacity and their client load, and it's like, I show you have like 60 billable hours left. Like, what are you doing? How am I setting you up like for a loss right now? Like, what do I need to do to make sure you're efficient? What systems do I need to put in place to make sure that you're getting this in? And then you start to uncover stuff, and then you improve it. So that's kind of the evolution of again, setting good expectations and understanding those types of numbers that you can then make decisions, like factual decisions. I'm a numbers guy, so I like to look at the numbers and like make factual decisions versus theory decisions.
Nice.
Yeah. Does
so
that make
how
sense?
did you? Yeah, it makes
Okay.
sense. You have a number. It's like, okay, they can handle, let's say, 5 or 10 clients.
Totally.
And once they're starting to handle either 4 or 9, then you're starting to see, okay, they probably can't do more. And that's when it's like, okay, I either need to figure out, do they have enough work? Are they doing extra work? Or do I need an extra person at this point, right? That's kind of like the debate a little bit.
Yep. Bingo. Based off of numbers and capacity, because it's all about measuring capacity in a service-based business. So that's what your job, because if you overwhelm them, again, they're going to be too burnt out. They're not going to do a good job, and it's just going to be a waste. And that also factors in with your pricing and all that stuff. So there's a lot of different stuff that tells us if you can nail that.
So how did you become a good leader? Were you just born in? Like, were you a great leader from the start, or?
No, definitely not. Surrounding myself with good people. Like, we have an executive coach right now who's been phenomenal to work with and to help me understand. Because I'm very much like I have a founder mindset, right? Like, I'm very grow, scale, grind, work hard, 3 a.m. wake up, go run 10 miles, go to the gym, work till 6, whatever. Like, that's how my natural wiring is. And I would say early on, I was like, everybody needs to grind. Like, that's the culture I want. Like, hustle, grind, Gary Vee, let's go, freaking scale, whatever. And then, again, just talking with mentors and Alan specifically, it was realizing, cool, like, I see something, this person sees something different. I can't expect them to be like a founder like me. I need to, again, slow down, stoop down to their level, create good expectations, have some empathy, and understand where they're coming from and how I can set them up for a win. So that's really what has helped me over time. It's kind of the insertion of empathy, really, in understanding human nature that's helped me from a leadership perspective. And it's hard at times. I'm more like black and white, and like that's just how I am naturally. So, but it's a skill worth developing just in all areas of your life. If you're leading a relationship or a company, it's like you just need to have empathy and understand human nature, and you'll be good. John Maxwell is great as well from his content, because he preaches a lot of that same stuff. Extreme Ownership by Jocko, phenomenal book. Dichotomy of Leadership by Jocko, phenomenal book. Like, that's pretty much how our company is run, is extreme ownership.
So, first of all, I love that book, and I think everyone should read it.
Sure.
I think it's extremely important. How did you find your executive coach? Was it someone that you're connected with, or was it someone recommended them? How'd you end up landing them?
Yeah, we were kind of in the same circles, and he just started helping out with stuff like early on in my apartment. Like, before I even thought Brain Strategic was going to be a thing, I didn't even know what the heck it was. We were in some Christian organizations together, and he was a business leader, and he was like, oh, can I pour into you for a little bit? And then that was the seed that grew into the relationship that we have now. It's definitely more conflict resolution, people-driven, not very tactical agency stuff, but the stuff that helps keep the organization actually together at the end of the day. Because if you have a bunch of sales and you scale a company, but like your culture sucks and people aren't getting along and you don't care for them, then it's not going to actually be a good company.
How important do you think mentors are, coaches?
Paramount. You can't see a forest when you're in the trees. So you got to have somebody that can kind of be above you and see things that you're not seeing, that can provide feedback based off that. I have several mentors. I've lowered my mentor pool a little bit down, just because if you have too many voices, then it can be a little overwhelming and you can get decision fatigue. But paramount, yeah. I mean, I hire a coach for everything: nutrition, like running, agency stuff, executive coaching with Alan, financial coach. I need that in order to help guide me, because otherwise you're just guessing. And then it goes back to the time thing, which we talked about earlier. It's like, how much is your time worth to sit there and scour YouTube videos or take an opinion from a bunch of different people when you could just have somebody help you get there faster? Because I think that's what a good coach does, especially in business. It helps you get there faster and with less stress.
Yeah, and I think every decision that I've made for someone to work with, obviously there's been like bad coaches or bad like experiences. A lot of that comes down to me too, which probably should ask that question next.
Yeah.
But it's always been scary to make the decision of hiring someone. One is just a big financial investment, of course, but then it's always paid off. It's always been worth the investment. How have you learned how to be a good coachable mentee to make the relationship worth it, to benefit the most out of the relationship through all of this?
Yeah. Yes and no. There's been some times where I've gone into like a coaching program, and I guess it's my fault, but this is self-paced and you got to do all this. And I'm like, I'm just not going to sit here and go through course videos and jump on calls like 6 times a week. Like that's just not where I'm at. That's not what I need. So I've realized that I'm coachable more one-to-one, and when I have really specific questions and I need to talk to somebody really specific. So I think what it means to be coachable, in my opinion, is submitting and saying, okay, cool, I trust you, I trust this process, and I'm going to commit to the process that you're dialing in and be submissive to what you're about to go through in order to actually see the result and actually do the work.
Nice.
Like don't, like everybody's like, okay, I'm going to buy this coaching program, I'm going to see these results, blah, blah, blah. It's like you will if you actually follow it and put the work in. But if you don't submit and you don't put work in and you don't take time to change stuff, then you're not going to see the results. Like I just hired a sales coach, or didn't hire a sales coach, hired somebody to help out with some sales systems. I was like, dude, I'm just going to put my hands up and be like, let's freaking do this. You tell me what I need to do. Did it. Boom. Now it's working. And it's like, cool, paid off, paid for itself 20 times because of it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's been my biggest problem when it comes to like when they don't work is either not asking questions, not leveraging the other person, just kind of like working in my own lane.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And it's been the biggest difference when it's paid off.
Yeah, I'm a fan of buying into coaching programs to solve one problem. So like if you have a sales issue, okay, hire a sales coach. If you have a operations issue, hire an operations coach that can help you solve that one problem. Because if you hire a general coach, then you're just going to be overwhelmed and you're not going to do anything. But figure out what the problem is that you want to be solved, go to them with that problem, and then go out and solve it.
I like that. It's what problem do you have, and then who can help you solve that problem.
Exactly. Versus like, well, I need a coach because I'm in real estate or I'm an agency and like I want to hire a coach. It's like, okay, what do you want to actually get from it? And then that's what you work towards. And then they'll help you get there faster.
Nice. So I did have kind of I don't know if it's a selfish question, but hopefully it helps others. Because I know, for example, like you have a high D personality. I know with me and Amy, my now wife, we're driven by two different things. Like she's all big on family, love. She has great career as a PA. Yeah. But like I'm driven off of like I love to work. Yeah. Even though like I'm more introverted, I want to have a big impact. Has there been times like with you and Sabrina where it's been difficult because you kind of are driven two different ways? And what have you learned to help overcome that, or to realize that, hey, they're just driven differently and I just have to find how to work with them. It's not trying to pull them to my side. So what have you learned?
Yeah, I would say early on in our relationship, for sure, I was like, I need Sabrina to be this business person and entrepreneur and da-da-da-da-da. And it was just like, it's not authentic, nor do I think it's a healthy relationship if we're just driven and working all the time, just in my opinion and what we see. So we've been through a lot, man. And like I was in real estate. I've been self-employed since I've known her. So she's kind of been through the ringer and the ups and downs of what that entails. So she's kind of been through it. And then I've done my learning is like, how do it goes back to the thing that I talked about with team members and employees, which is having empathy and meeting them where they're at, right? Like seeing what she's seen. So we've been through the counseling, like we've read so many books together, but it all goes down to empathy, and then from a relationship perspective, understanding what their needs are. So, for example, Sabrina's love language, quality time. I know gets a little bit more anxious, and so I need to help meet her needs to make her feel less anxious. Maybe it's about the relationship, or be more intentional with my time. And she likes physical touch, so I'll touch her even though it doesn't do anything for me. Like simple acts like that I can be aware of, that I can then go meet her needs specifically. It's like we all have, I think about this often where it's like you have a tank, you have a love tank, your wife has a love tank. Okay? How are you filling up her love tank every single day? Like, what are you doing to make sure that you're keeping her love tank full? And then it goes both ways. What is she doing? Maybe you, because you're entrepreneurial and you want to grow and like you're introverted and you want to like build. Your love language is, hey, I just need some time and some space. Like that's how I am. It's like I need time to myself, and I need time just to sit there and grind. Like that's my needs. Maybe her need is I need quality time. Okay, cool. So I'm going to plan a date night around when I can work or whatever it is, and make sure you're filling up her cup, because when her cup's full, she'll fill up yours and want to fill up yours. So that's been really helpful in our relationship, and communication and expectations, of course, but empathy for sure, and just understanding each other and like getting to know them, and like being curious, and then like how to make them feel loved. Like what does that practically look like has really helped me.
I like that cup analogy. You're thinking of, okay, we both have cups.
Yep.
What can we do consistently to fill each other's cup?
Boom. And then you just think about it every single day. And you ask her, what can I do to fill your cup today? Like how's your love tank? How's your cup been recently? And she's like, oh, I just need some more of your time. Okay, cool. And then boom, you plan a date night, her cup gets full, and then now you don't feel guilty working, you don't feel guilty doing what you're doing. And then you communicate the same thing to her, and then it's like, boom, we're on the same page. We communicated, we understand each other, we're good to go.
Is that where your weekly check-ins came from, or?
Yeah, for sure. Like we're pretty diligent with having those types of conversations and making sure that we're staying on top of those conversations. Otherwise, we don't. Like it's hard to do it in passing, or like, oh, we're at dinner, or we're just sitting at, or like we're having a quick dinner or whatever, and it's like we're not going to make space on a Tuesday night where it's like we just got done with a crazy day to have a really deep conversation about what we're feeling. So if we can make room for that stuff and we can ask those types of questions, then that will allow us to steward our relationship good leading into the week.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that. So I do, because I want to be cognizant of your time.
Yeah.
I want to get to what you do exceptionally well, which I've heard. Do you consider yourself more introverted?
Definitely.
So is that how you got into doing video and social media? Is that your way of like, this is my way of kind of prospecting, doing sales, doing all these things while doing it in a way that kind of fills my cup, being more introverted?
Yeah.
Is that what pushed you into social media, or?
I think what pushed me into social media and it is simply realizing this is how you get business in the 20th century is putting yourself out there and getting on video. So that's what pushed me over the edge to actually do it, for sure. It was just realizing, hey, if I'm going to work hard and do what I need to do, and I know the best way to reach the most amount of people and most effectively, and that's video, okay, I'm going to freaking do that and double down on it, for sure.
So I guess what I was curious is, a lot of people think they need to be extroverted or get on camera, and it's sometimes us as introverts that are afraid to get on camera, where we think, but I actually think this is me selfishly, I think it's an easier form because I don't have to be in front of anyone. I could just shoot the video, and that's a way for me to just go about it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a super
It's
good,
something that I've been realizing.
That's a really good way to think of it. It's like you're not talking to 1,000 people on stage or having to go network, but you can conceptually do the same thing at home with your own setup by filming video. But yeah, I don't think I've processed the introvertness too much, just as it pertains to video. I think just video it is intimidating. It is like it's makes people insecure, seeing themselves, hearing the way they talk, seeing how they look on camera. I think anybody can see that and be like, whoa, that's scary. But I think as an introvert personally, like I'm more to myself and I'm creative, and I think most introverts are kind of more process driven and thinking and to themselves. It's like, okay, use that to create specific content that's authentic to you and how you are as a human. I think you see the extroverts probably on camera who are doing a bunch of collabs and out in public doing crazy stuff and talking to people, and it's like, or entertaining content. It's like, if that's not you, then don't do it. Just do what feels secure with you. And again, I love your perspective of you're going to reach conceptually a ton of people just by filming at home. So it's a win-win-win.
Yeah, and I've spoken on like one big stage of like, I don't remember, it was like 500 or 1,000, and I was
Nice.
very nervous
Yeah.
to get up. I had to talk through my own thoughts of like, this talk is not for me. This
Yep.
is for everyone else. They
There you
didn't
go.
invite me on stage for me. It's to benefit them.
Totally.
And that kind of helped me through my own introvertedness. And
You probably bolted off that stage quick, and you went home and you were like, "Oh my god."
yeah,
That's how I am at events. I'm like, "All right, I'm out."
it definitely was scary.
Yeah, for sure.
So with all the people that you've worked with and now all the stuff that you're doing on social media, what do we do wrong first? What's the wrong way and the right way of doing social media? And why is it that, for example, people that you've worked with, they've consistently gotten deals from Instagram, and then other times people don't get any deals? That might have been two questions.
Yeah.
But
Do you want video specifically or just social media in general?
it could be video.
Okay. Video specifically, like the mistake that people are making is not preparing. And I would say the key point being not having a system in place and not leveraging like scripts and preparing beforehand. I think people listen to a podcast like this, they listen to Tom Ferry, they listen to somebody that says you guys got to be doing video, they feel inspired, they pull out their camera, they start filming some videos, it takes them 3 hours, they get one video, they post it, and they're like, I ain't ever doing that again. So instead of doing that, so that's the wrong way. The right way is running your business like a business, creating a system for yourself, creating a system for scripting, creating a system for how you're going to shoot it, and then create a system for how you're going to post it to create consistency. Because the way you're going to be successful with video and get deals is not by posting one video and hoping it goes viral. It's not by posting a video and getting 10,000 views. It's by being consistent, right? It's the consistency that's going to compound and actually lead to a result. So that's video specifically. I would say social media is just not treating social media as a CRM. Like, a follower to me is somebody in my database that I can then blast to. It's like people work so hard. I'm going to get emails and I need to get all these emails. It's like, focus on getting like Instagram followers or YouTube subscribers or whatever it is, because they're now in your database, and that's way better than sitting there going to your archives when people get your emails.
Yeah, and I think the biggest problem that we all face is the consistency thing, where it's like everybody wants to have that amazing video, but really what makes the amazing videos the first 100 videos that give you enough feedback to be like, okay,
Sure.
Now I know how to create the amazing video.
Yeah, you'll never get good by thinking about it or by reading about it or by researching on it. It's like you do it and then you have an intention to refine it to make it better, and then that'll compound.
So real quick, what is a simple system that any agent could do on their own to set up themselves for success on video?
Yep. So what I would do is I would time block 2 hours every single month, put in your calendar, Monday, every first Tuesday of the month. This is 2 hours, just to be graceful. And this is where I'm going to write my scripts for the video. This is where I'm going to plan 20 videos, 8 videos, 4 videos, however many you want to do. And I'm going to sit there and I'm going to write a hook, and then I'm going to write very simple content, and then that's pretty much the picture. So we use Notion to do this. It makes it super easy. You can kind of create like a list, and it's dialed in. Cool. Then the second thing I'll time block is when you're actually going to shoot, and then just make it this recurring event every single time, and then you shoot your videos there with your phone, with the Captions app, and then you execute there. And then with the Captions app, if you use a teleprompter because you spent so much time scripting, you don't really need to do any post-production. And then there you go. Then you have 8, 10, 12, 15, 16 pieces of content that you're able to consistently get out and shoot, assuming you're following that sort of structure. So that's like the easiest way, is just to time block for it and just time block scripting, the preparation, and then the actual executing of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, if anyone wants to learn more, where can they go?
They can follow me on the gram at Austin R. Schneider. That's probably where I'm most active. And then give me a follow, give me a thumbs up, whatever whatever would make the most sense.
Nice. I want to thank you for your time and everything that you were able to share, because you've done things that a lot of people wish they could get from like their social media. Like I've been following you selfishly because I love your content.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming on. And
of course.
I appreciate you and
Appreciate you,
everything
man.
I've learned.
Come on, let's do it. We're here to help each other out.